Ah, Good evening. It is 9 o'clock and it is time for me to do another constructing live stream. I wasn't certain what kind of puzzle I wanted to do tonight, and I am still leaving open the possibility, if there's anyone looking now, to um, to suggest a puzzle type for me to work on. Feel free to drop a suggestion in chat, but I am leaning towards doing two-tone. It's a type that I haven't done in quite a while. Let me just see when the last two-tone I have in my folder is. Definitely not this year. Uh, Problem with trying to find things chronologically is that the default ordering is alphabetical, and so everything from uh, last year is just in alphabetical order, and two-tone is near the bottom. Looks like I did a two-tone in April of last year. So it's been about a year, so that seems like a reasonable thing for me to get back to. Live unstable. Well, I hope it is more stable. Uh, so I have here in my two-tone template an already started two-tone that I might try to finish. But before I jump into that, I do want to mention a little bit about how I would get started with a two-tone. So um, let me show a complete uh, grid for one of these. So here's one that's maybe the one that I did last year. Um, so in the puzzle, you have three different kinds of answers. The grid is presented as a single series of squares that have been wrapped into a square grid, and it has a sort of checkerboard shading. And there are there's one uh, stream of answers that just uses the white squares, one stream that just uses the gray squares, and then one stream that uses all of the squares. And the word breaks just go wherever they happen. They're all reading forward, always in the same direction. But basically, what happens is that whatever you have in the for the all squares, every other letter needs to make a word or be part of a word in one set and in the other set. So in this puzzle that I have here from last year, you see that I start with in all letters Dries, Scour, and Stetson, and the odd letters of those spell discuses, not discusses, discuses, and the even letters spell resort and then TO, and we go on like that. And it's an interesting challenge in a couple of ways. Um, one of the sort of one aspect of writing crosswords that you can apply to almost any format is what I might call the alternating principle, which is that if you just alternate consonants and vowels in each word and make sure that they're, alternating in opposite ways, that you can generally get by because most words tend to go consonant vowel, and you can do this to an ordinary crossword where you try to swap the consonant vowel pattern for adjacent uh, entries in the grid, where you would Um, but it also applies to almost any format on a square grid, like marching bands and Pathfinder and rectangles, things like that. And also, hex grids can break this alternating rule, but if you use a format like Hex Pathfinder, it actually uh, does obey the alternating rule. Basically, the idea is if you can color the board as a checkerboard, color the grid as a checkerboard, and every entry is just necessarily alternating black and white, then you can have them all alternate consonants and vowels. But here, although the grid is a checkerboard, some of the entries are alternating black and white, and some of them are just white, and some of them are just black, or gray in this case, since we want it to be legible. So it's a different sort of constraint, which has interesting implications. If you tried to just put alternating vowels and consonants in the all letter answers, then you just get all vowels in one color and all consonants in the other color, which is obviously not going to work. So you have to have things with clusters of vowels and consonants and break it up. And it stretches my ordinary, like, I like word overlaps and I'm very good at spotting them. It stretches that muscle a bit more because the overlaps are spread out. They're not, uh, you know, ordinarily if two words overlap in a Pathfinder, they share the same several letters consecutively, but here one of them's got gaps. And so what I would do if I were getting started in a two-tone is either I would happen to see some word where I go, hey, every other letter in that looks interesting, which I have. I have a couple of those in this sheet. For instance, carrot cake. I just happened to notice that the letters of carrot cake, which are here, gave you rock, croc or rock, and then this ARTAE, which could be something ending in art and beginning with AE, or it could be like Sparta and something with E. So it's a little unusual, but still, like, it was interesting enough that I used that as a seed for a puzzle. What is generally more likely is that the seed occurs at the beginning or the end. Like I noticed that um, uh, like surface, you could put in letters to make fiance, and that gave a nice INE ending. And then surface could maybe be Stuart and fiance, and I stretched that to inner surface and astatine. And that one's also unusual in that I started with one of the every other letter strings. Normally I start from the all letter strings. But if I don't already have a seed in mind, then what I'll usually do is I'll put in a query that looks something like this. Let's say I want a 9-letter word to be the first two-tone answer. And I'm hoping that the every other letter groups will be extended a little bit beyond that. So I'll say I'm going to use variables. I want to specify that A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I is 9 letters, which just forces each of them to be a single letter. And then I'll have 2 additional variables. Let's call them maybe Y and Z, which indicate the letters that will go beyond the initial 9-letter answer. And then the equations, so I'm requiring that A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I be a word. And then the odd letters of that are ACEGI followed by that designated Y. And then the even letters are B, D, F, H followed by Z. And I'm having Y and Z be 1 to 3 letters because I want there to be some overlap, but if it's too long, it's probably going to be unwieldy. If I see something that looks like it could be extended, I might make use of that. Search for that, and you got a bunch of things. Attorneys at rest. Like I had one which is not in my sheet where I used attorneys at law as the seed with at rest and Tony, and I don't remember what the remaining letters were there. I've used barbarian with brain and Abram or Abraham, something like that. Uh, so I've used several of these. Not several. I've used a few of these. Um, and I just look through this to see if something grabs my attention of having good words. But I think I'm just going to stick with what I already have in here. I thought although there was one thing that I was looking through here and went, oh, that'd be interesting. But I'm not remembering it now. Oh yeah, I did like possibly drain pipe and Daniel and Ripple or Rip. So I might make a new. I might at least start a new sheet with that. I'll duplicate that and maybe put in drain pipe. And the way this let's hang on. I'm just figuring out the right sizing to make this readable. Let's hide these. Now I can blow this up. 150 will be good. Just make sure I. Also use a slightly bigger font size. So I would put something, so I enter all of my answers in the first row that says all. And then I have, just the simplest formula of just copying every other letter down to the white row and the opposite to the bottom row. But I see that if I have Daniel, or wait, no. Drain pipe Daniel. Okay, if I have, it can be a little bit disorienting to think of the two different directions sometimes. Like which one, when I'm at the end of a word, whether the next one is going to be white or gray. Obviously when I actually put it in, the sheet determines it for me, but if I'm doing it in my head, I sometimes forget. So I was thinking in my head that the L of Daniel was going to come before the E of ripped. But if I were doing this, then I'd probably, does this work? Oops. Oh, wow. Okay, change of plans. Working on this grid, not going to the one that I had started before. So this is interesting because I have, so the other thing I will do is I will as I go, start shading some of this, although I guess I need the, let's see, shade this yellow, shade this blue. So now I have a white entry that begins with ERN and a gray entry that begins with NIG. Night doesn't really work here. Oops. Because after ERN, you mostly want a vowel. Although you could have Ernst. Max Ernst is what, a surrealist artist or something like that? Shows up in crosswords a lot, but then you have SHTT. But night doesn't really work. So I'd rather have something that's like either Niger, Nigeria, Nigel, something with that. I guess if I'm doing that, then I do probably need to rely on Ernst. Set. No, that's not going to work out. That's back to the I. Yeah. So maybe it wasn't. Maybe Elden Ring wasn't the right thing to do there. What else? Two-tone? Only one direction. Yeah, the difficult. Yeah, Tane. The difficulty is in the every other letter. At least I finally got Elden Ring in a puzzle. Yeah, there was one puzzle where I was working on a section. I forget what format it was. It might have been a Pathfinder or something like that. And I was like, oh, I could get this section to work if I had Eldin, Eldin, just like the video game. And then I realized that no, Elden Ring is spelled with an ELDEN. ELDIN is a region in several Legend of Zelda games, but a region within a video game is a step too far. So, we'll see if I can make Elden Ring work. It's just like, what else starts with NIG that I can actually put into a puzzle? Could just be nigh. And for that matter, what begins with ERN? I put in Erno just because I was thinking Erno Rubik, but obviously there's the crossword earn. There's Ernest. But that's putting like, that would put like two E's together. Ernani, Erners. Oh, that's ER-nurse. A multi-word phrase, not earners. Do any of those work here? So if it is just nigh, yeah, you just still if you just have SHT, like there are some Yiddish derived words, but usually I'd be inclined to spell them SCHT, like shtick. Maybe shtick is, how do you spell shtick? Both Wikipedia and Merriam-Webster have it as the primary spelling as SHTIK, so it could be, or SHTICK. So then, if I'm starting with IK, it pretty much has to be IKEA. Now, here's where we have a problem, or challenge anyway, in that the white lettered answers are starting with a C, and it really, with a few exceptions, really wants to have at least one vowel in around this E and A. You know, especially if I put, I could have something like Leia, Princess Leia, and that would give me CLI. So there's something that would give me something I could use that's a bit longer. Is it the Heian period or the Heian era that you would usually talk about? This is a Heian period. Division of Japanese history. What would that give me? E8, oh no. Oops. Chin, Eider, Pro. Sure. I put in a video game reference, and I also put in Japanese history. Because this EID can be like Eider. Could also be Eid Mubarak, but that's just going to be too long and not play nicely with the other letters. I don't think. Like just this, I could maybe see getting out of it once you're past this, but the MU kind of just need a 5-letter thing to go there. MU. And that would be going with after Pro. So no, not Eid Mubarak. Instead, just Eider. So both Pro from the let's color in some more words to help keep track. And Ernst. You know, I'd like it if I can get some longer words in here, longer than just Chin and IKEA. But, you know, it's a process. There's a sort of a give and take where you have long, you know, a long entry in one of the 3 streams is going to be balanced by shorter entries in the other 2 generally. Especially once you have additional letters that are constrained by pre-existing entries. Um, so I could see something like, oh, it's too bad that I need the extra space there because terracotta would be nice there and give me something like road. I could still have terra. Um, are there other things that I could have? I could have something like propel and peer something. Peerless. Um, can I get... Hmm. So this is one of those things where, like, if I'm left with just the E and the R, and I'm putting in maybe A, B, C, D. Excuse me. So I'm gonna, if I have something here that's the 7-letter word, or possibly longer, that gives me pro something and something up here, because this missing letter here between the C and the D could be anything, because it's just the start of a new word. So let's try this. ABCD equals 4. A, E, B, R, C dot D. What is the... P, R, O, A, B, C, D. Let's make up a dummy variable. Actually, no, we'll leave it as that. And I may... No, let's just put the star in. I'm hemming and hawing because um, if I put in a star, even though usually Cot treats a star as 0 or more, as matching 0 characters possibly, when it interacts is directly next to variables, it sometimes only matches non-zero numbers of characters. And so if I want the possibility of 0 characters, I have to create a variable that can be 0 or letters or longer. But in this case, I don't want the two words to end at the same spot. I try to avoid that as much as I can in these puzzles. So instead, if I put a star there and I get one or more letters, then that's kind of exactly what I want. And I'm probably going to swap the asterisk if I don't like the results for this. Peter Perrine. Wow, these all start with P. I guess there's a lot of pro patria propriety. Well, I don't like Perrine or Peter. So let's put it on this one instead. Peerless and Propels, which I had not noticed. Fear no evil and profane. That's... Yeah, the problem is that most of these are the letters that overhang are not going to give good combinations when they're broken up. Possibly near the ground, but that feels a little green painty. And pronate is not a word that I'd rather have. Um, so I'm not sure that I'm going to get much better than propel here. Unless I say, what if, uh, it's not, uh, what if this word isn't 7 letters, but it's instead only 6? Um, but I like putting peerless here. It does mean that the next word starts with es, which is okay. Um, I am going to stick to using just propel and not propels. Um, so am I daring enough to try an escape room here? For this to work, I need some kind of vowel here. Yeah, having a vowel there doesn't really look good. So get rid of escape room. Even escape was giving me the same problem. So es. I could have something like super here, which would then give Sue on the bottom. Could which could be Suede, Suet, somebody named Sue. The only Sue that's coming to mind off the top of my head is Sue Bird, the basketball player. Sue Perkins, Bake Off host. Uh, why is it that hard? So hard for me to come up with Sues? Is it just not that common a name anymore? Do people just go by Susan? Um, However, I'm seeing something where if I just have suede, I can have esprit, maybe even esprit de corps. So let's see, I've gone been getting way ahead of myself. Shtick, Heian period, super dieted. So this is giving me another thing starting with E. And then another DE. Can't use diet again. Wonder if there's anything that goes to the C. Oh wait, no, it doesn't. It doesn't include the D because the D is already indieted. So E. Wonder if I can maybe get a 7-letter word here. So don't really know what I want from this, but let's so all right, A B C D equals 4. That's great. The all letters was A E B C C O D. I know it's weird that I have the capitalization conventions swapped. I am not in I am not in control over Kott's decision to make lowercase be literals and uppercase be variables, but I've just always used uppercase as for solution text in a puzzle. Uh, I don't even know if there are words that go EC. Let's just see if we have any words that go like that. Hen coop, reactor. Erector doesn't quite. Erector, or not erector. Reactor would work if I had erat in the grays, but I don't want that. Uh, what if I made it slightly longer? Nothing. Velcro, nope. And then there's a lot for this. So maybe we just go with that. And then we need the odd letters of that to follow an E. Not seeing good things yet. Maybe Pesci and Epsilon. If I just had React, I could do something like Well, Erato is not going to give me good letters. Eratosthenes is definitely not going to work. Although you can't dismiss things out of hand necessarily. Sometimes you'll be surprised by like, oh, this um, you know, 10 letter word will actually fit in here. Like I was doing a Pathfinder once and I was like, I need a 5 letter word that starts with Q, U, and or maybe a 6 letter word that starts with Q, U, and then has some letters. And I need a 5 letter word that has some letters. And then some of these letters, and the 5 letter word has to end in A. And then the remaining bits have to play with these letters that are already in the grid. And then I realized that quinceañera was an 11 letter word that did the job of the 6 and 5 letter words. So I used it. An 11 letter word with a Q. Also with an enye, which always feel a little bit weird about putting in a grid. Yeah, clutch entries like that are nice. Uh, and sometimes you feel like your clutch entries are going to be things that are just, on the edge of acceptable, and sometimes they just turned out to be great entries anyway. So I think, what was it? I was like Pesci, maybe. L O L. No. So esprit de corps might have been biting off a bit more. Uh, could also try to do it broken up differently. So instead of dieted, it's just like diet and then adder. And then C. Oh, but that gives me ADR at the beginning, which could go for something like adrenaline, but that's not gonna work with these other letters. So, uh, and a 4 letter answer, blank E, blank C, is there's just gonna be so few interesting possibilities for that I'm not really gonna. Oh, I messed up. I'm gonna have to back out of a lot of this because I misspelled. I forgot that um, Peerless was going to be using this S. So, uh, uh, whatever the actual, I don't care what the actual color is. It's probably something like that. Oh, yes, it was. So, turns out that Super was double dipping. Um, well, good thing I caught that now and not much later. Uh, So to give me the, because I want, no, Sapo's not gonna be that great. So maybe it's not Esprit either. What would that give? Is this any better? Eclair. That would give me SELI, which doesn't seem like the great beginning of a word. Selena Kyle. I am enough of a nerd that I would consider putting Selena Kyle in a crossword grid, but I just no the what would that even do here? Oh no, that's gonna run straight into the rest of the puzzle, like a bird into a window. Um, all right, so maybe not escargot. If we stick with, maybe it's not esprit or espresso, but something like. I mean, the obvious thing to go here is apple. But opal. And then we're looking at soap something, but soapier. Suppose I could have pain be Paine, not just Pain. And then ard. Or it could be ear something. I don't know if there's anything like that. Esplanade is probably one of those words that is less familiar than I think, just because in Boston there's a major walking path along the Charles River called the Esplanade. So nothing starting E. And nothing without the E. All right. Um, This is almost too wide open. Words beginning with ES. Um, One tricky thing here is that I have ES coming off of eider and an S coming off of propel. And I really want both of them to have like C1, C2. Like I really want two consonants here for ES consonant and S consonant something, but two consonants that both want to go after S are probably not going to want to go after each other. I suppose, well, there was the. Oh no, that's the wrong way around. Uh, so what that probably means, since I'm not likely to, other than like ESOW, I'm not going to find something with the ES, and I'd like something longer than 4 letters there. So that means I've probably got a vowel here, consonant, vowel, and hopefully longer than 4 letters. Hmm. Boy, I keep on wanting to go for fancy words like espadrille and escallop, escarole. Oh, I decided that CA was not a good letter combination to go there. Oh, whoops. I have to be careful not to put things directly into the middle rows, that all the changes have to go in the top row, because if I do otherwise, it'll break the copying, and if I then later make changes, I have to go through an annoying process. Um, this is reminding me slightly of a sign that one of my math teachers had in the classroom that said, "All work done on premises, no work done on conclusions," reminding us to not assume what we're trying to show when we're trying to show it, which is kind of what I was. It's not exactly what I was doing in editing the middle row, but you know, it'd be nice if this were a two-way system, where I could edit the middle rows and it would populate to the top row as well. And there's probably some magic formulae that some puzzle hunters have come up with to do that. But I would rather just keep it kind of simple. Hmm. So, I mean, I could have something like. Hmm, oh, SATR is not great. Um, act out. Oh, but I wanted to have an R here, so. Uh, S. Yes. probably can't go past this second E in the top row. Just E blank E, especially at the end, is kind of, it's a lot more restrictive than any other vowel before E. You know, A blank E, I blank E, O blank E, U blank E, all great. E blank E, a lot more restricted. Okay. At last, and salsa sounds good. Does mean I have something starting with a E. I'm also not thrilled with salsa and estate sort of ending at the same time. Maybe I can like having something like, there's no way Aeschylus works here. CYU, no. Like things that could go after estate are like estate tax, estate law. But really the AE is the sticking point here. Arial. Oh yeah, I was gonna, estate is in yellow. It really likes to get some longer entries in here in the middle. If I'm getting IL, there's not a lot that wants. Uh, so want a consonant. So I could have something like plunge or flange or plunder, things like that. But I need to be mindful of what that's going to give me for the bottom row. If plinder was a word, I'd have rapid. Flannel. Oh, blinders would work. Give me rabid. Let's mark that. Then we have illness. Again, we're having words with S as the second letter. That's annoying, and is one. It's kind of one pitfall of a format like this is you wind up using a lot of the same like word endings and things that just happen to be nice in some ways, but lead you not only into the repetition but also into being forced into specific word combinations, which then forces more repetitive word patterns because there's only so many words that fit the new pattern you've just created. Illness. I could also have something like just blinder and then, but like I don't think of a blinder as being a singular thing. You wear blinders, right? I mean, I'm sure there is a singular form, but that doesn't mean that it's. And no, I don't want to use the comparative of blind. Either of two flaps. So they are individually, each, there are two of them, each is individually a blinder, but I'm just used to it being, and yeah, blinder means something in British slang that I'm not going to use here. So I could use blinder singular and spare that S to go up here. So I could make this something like root. I know rutile is a word, but I don't know what it means, and I don't think it's particularly suspect. No, suspicious is going to have the same problem. Excuse me. Session would give me the beginning of resonate or resonant. And then IN is a decent beginning. Sure. So if I want resonate or resonant, but let's put in resonate first. Could have something like that. Parties and then in prison, which, like, I don't know, in prison is certainly green painty in that it is just what the two combination of two words means, but it is also a reasonably like common phrase with a, I don't know, maybe not. If it were in prison, certainly with an M, but uh, and there's also the possibility of it being. I wonder if the having and next T here would make things better because I could see something like ingredient and then with garnant, resonant. Now, the tempting thing to do here is something like drive, but that would put RV at the beginning. I suppose you could have something, a phrase about RVs, like an RV lot or something. RV park is probably more likely than RV lot. But that's not going to go with the N and the T. So I think instead it's going to have to be something like, you know, either daises or de-ice. Just because one of these two letters around the I, we like anything that has an R there, that R in the gray letters wants to be followed by a vowel, except for an H on a rare occasion, and neither a vowel nor an H works in that slot. Um, so see, like de-ice gives me yet another word starting with E, this time starting with EC, and that's possibly the trickiest one so far. Um, Obviously, there are words that start with EC, like eclipse and eccentric, but also fitting with ecdysiast, with de-iced, but uh, that's not going to give good things for the rest of it unless I allowed NYT just by itself for New York Times. But I don't like putting 3-letter entries in these. 4 letters minimum in a two-tone, please. So maybe it is daises. Which would give ASS. That's a good good beginning. Asset, and then nettle. Another E at the beginning of a word. I'm sick of E's. I'm sick of E's. No more E's ever. Uh, course, um, night. Maybe there's something other than nettle. Net. Net. Hmm. We want NATB dot C. Actually, let's do D equals 0, 1. A, S, S, A, B, C. Oops. E does not have to be 0 to 1. It could be any length. Nut. Test. Netgear. Nutria. What would that give me? Nutria assurance. So we'd have NT I blank U blank R. Oh wait, I blank. Let's try that. Like I could see, but I can't remember whose name is Isaac, I-S-A-K. Is that Chris Isaak, or is that with 2 A's? 2 A's. Darn it. Alexander Isak? No, never heard of him. Okay, so no. I could have ingredient overlapping with nutrient, which even though they're uh, overlapping in different ways and are in different groups of entries. Uh, just feels kind of samey to have two food-related words that both end in "ient." It's not a violation or anything, just feels wrong. Uh, on the other hand, it would give us a sure just by itself. Let's run with it. Gradient be in yellow, garnet in red. So we have another thing starting with IN. Oh, actually, that's putting me off of it more. I just feel like I'm going to be stuck in another rut like I am with the E words. And so, nope, nope, nope. Don't edit those letters. Edit these letters. So fine, if we have nettle here, maybe I'll just try to come up with a sufficiently different IN word. No, 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 no. It's just the same ending used, but it's no, it's not the same ending. The endings are in different areas. Okay. Hmm. Sorry, I just had to ban a spammer. Uh, and I also could have I am once again a fool. I am duplicating the last N in session. when I really needed it to start a new word. All right, backing out of all that. Usually I don't make this sort of mistake that many times. Uh, so, hey. Having that end there is making this. Trying resolute just because I like L as a starting letter more than N. N is one of those letters that is surprisingly difficult as a starting letter. You'd think it's one of the most common letters in the alphabet. Surely it begins a lot of words, but not as many as a lot of the others. Not as many as S or C or. So resolute, I could also have resolve, but that really. And the problem with all of these is I want to have a consonant after the IN in the whites. It's not required. I could have like near to make inert. But then I would have TTE, which is obviously not going to work. If I changed it to resonant, it's still okay. It's a little bit of a reach, but inerrant is a word, right? Free from error, yeah. Unlike my puzzles, it seems. Uh, but I could easily have like treat or tread, maybe maybe tread just because there's a lot of T's in this puzzle. Uh, so I'd have. And then inerrant only goes that far. Ah. So now we want. Now nettle might be nice. something like determine or detergent. But we'd need a vowel here to go after L. My smoothie's gone and it's not even halfway through the stream. This could be a long one. So we could have detergent, deterrent, determine. If we have to put a vowel there, then R is probably not good. I mean, they're all not great. But it's just no. Let's just see what we get for vowel R dot detergent, deterrent, determine star. Aroma would put AOA in a row. Aragon, same problem. So a lot of these are going to be vowel, vowel, vowel. Art gum would be different, but LATU doesn't look so good. Armrest would be lame. Like, that's literally what it would give me. I'm not saying that it is bad, and I wouldn't use lame that way anyways. Art. I have a feeling that once I go past 8 letters, it's going to be Armguard would give me LAMUR, which is almost lemur, but not. Ars Magna almost makes lasagna if you, well, no, it doesn't. It almost makes lasagna if you just forget about how everything works. Yeah, I think having this be longer than armrest is definitely the best out of those, but I haven't even really considered what that does for. Oh, yeah, now it. I wasn't even considering what the letters beyond it had to be. So maybe it's something else starting with net. Net. There's a lot of things. Network would give DEWR, not good. Net weight would be similar. Net. DEGI doesn't look great. Although I should keep in mind that I can change the D at the beginning of this to a T so that it's treat instead of tread. There's also the possibility that I expand resonate to resonated, but again, I want to minimize the places where two of them begin or end in the same place. It almost always winds up happening at least somewhere, but okay, what words start with net? Let's see. Doesn't even have to start with net, does it? It could just start with n blank t. Net was just the first thing that popped into my head. All right. So let's ask for it to be at least 7 letters. And actually, let's ask for the 4th letter to be a consonant. And then let's ask for a pony. What the heck is Netsuke? I should know this. Miniature sculpture. Possible, and that would give me desk if I had Netsuke. Oh, but that would then give me something starting with UE. And that does not look good. could go back to nutria, especially since we no longer have ingredient. I could also have nutrient. What would nutrient do? URE, not as good. How much of a thing is nut cake? Just like you're just gonna have a lot of hits for nut cake just because people will be. That's not what I meant to do. Just because of all these recipe blogs. 478,000. Because nut cake would give me something like duck, but it would give me the AE again, so that doesn't sound as good. You know what? I think this could work. No Trump. Uh, which is absolutely devoid of commentary. And then you could have something like just dorm, but more likely something like dormer, dormitory, dormouse, or torment, torm. What starts with these letters? Dormant, dormice, dorm room. So maybe we have D/T, E/A, dormant or torrent. I guess that would be A. And then hope that whatever we have goes with up. Actually, let's just make this AB equals 2. E, A, N, B, T star, up, A, B star. It's probably not good. Just because I'm looking at what I have here and they're not looking good. Huh, this doesn't seem like a... Oh, maybe it's because of the... fine, we'll restrict those. C equals... 1 to 3. At night with that spelling, N-I-T-E, is just a partial for Nick at night, at least as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so maybe it's not that. Maybe it's... Oops. A, D... No, not 0A, just A. Could have up and atom with earned, or up and coming. Uprose, error. Upright and airing. So most things are using either earned or airing. Even though it's going to give me yet another E, I'm going to try earned. And see if I can get something like up and atom. Earned. So now we have another E coming after Dormer. And this one's tricky. Wait, is it tricky? Earned. E. All right. Dormer entire. Nattier. All right. Up and atom is still just one word. Well, one entry. Now what? No more smoothie. M-E. What if I had like entirety? Not sure we could get something that's me dot. Although now that I've typed that, I immediately see medley. And what if we go longer than that? Could have medleys. Excuse me. Medley race. Mellow yellow. Oh, but both of those are gonna wind up giving problems with the every other letter. Same with medley relay. But still, maybe we'll give medleys a shot. Can we get Despacito in here? And we could have this thing starting with the S or the letter after. Oh, actually, yeah, I like it better with medley singular. So it could be DE anything. Um, could still be Despacito, but I was not feeling great about the letters the more I looked at them. Yeah. Um, degree something. Desperate or desperado. Could have. Well, I don't want to have supper because that would give me another up. But I think Sapper Rialto. Medley Sapper Rialto gives me Desperate, if I have this, and April. So, Desperate in yellow. Sapper in red. So I am back to having an eye, although it could be like Desperation. But that might be worse off. Just because this ION thing is not a great letter combination, but let me see. I.O.N. Stop. Caps off. And this is, the odd letters are coming after an O. Yeah, those aren't anything, but it could be a four-letter thing like iron. And then ornate or ornery. If I didn't already have near in the grid, I could put nearly there to get ornery, but or nearby. Ugh, that's cruel. And then I've already just had nattier to get this NATE pattern. I suppose it could be nastier, but I'd rather not have another comparative or superlative adjective starting with NA blank T. So let's see what else it gives me. Probably narthex, whatever that is. Narthex, which I'm guessing is part of a church. It sounds like part of a church. Nasties, I guess you could make a case for that. I mean, narthex also has horrible letters, but the narthex is the entry leading into a church. Okay. I was right that it was part of a church, but I cannot keep those at all straight. Not being, maybe I could ask the Chicago Pope if they can tell between the different parts of a church. Is that like a quiz you have to pass in order to become Pope? Identify the following locations in St. Peter's Basilica. So if it is just nasties, like what do... Still feels a little bit. That's if I had iron there, which I was just like, I could also have some other four-letter thing with I and O, but I'm not sure I'll get better than that with the to go with the O. Igor for something about ogres. IHOP and some interjection O something. In OT. ONT. Okay, well, desperation was just a desperate move to not have another entry starting with E. I think that move failed. Mm. Oh, I was forgetting which word started with the O and which word started with the E, and thought that I could put ostrich. I might still be able to get. Wait, if I have ostrich, what is that? Rialto cannot be pluralized with an E. Saturn, no. Maybe there are other things starting with ORN. There's like ornithologist, which seems unlikely. Ornette. Ornette Coleman is a jazz saxophonist, one of the greats. Ornament. Ornament would. Yeah, putting NA really wants it to be near. I suppose it could be neat instead. But then we have yet another word starting with E. Um, what was the other one? NOT. NOT is one of those phrases where I'm like, I'd be pleased to see it in a regular crossword, but less pleased to see it in a variety crossword. There's this thing about variety crosswords that it's like so much more about, like, you have so much freedom and you're trying to sort of show off the kind of overlaps you can find. And so having an abbreviation in there, even a fairly well-known one, unless it's something like NASA that is a few letters long and such just isn't as interesting in a variety crossword. Um, Sometimes you gotta use them. Like if I'm, you know, sometimes you need to use a three-letter entry in a cryptic to tie things up, and you know, no, I'd hate that. Actually, I'd hate that unless it was a really common abbreviation. I say I'd hate that, but then like Ukavu uses them all the time in his cryptics, but those are A, incredibly constrained by the gimmicks that he's doing, and B, still not something that I'd want to put in my own puzzle. Um, could also have in on, but ONN doesn't look good. So, is it at all possible to fit April O'Neil in here? Again, is it 1L or 2 in April O'Neil? 1L. I ran into this problem once where I was trying to clue O'Neil with two L's and didn't want to use the usual suspects of Eugene and O'Neil and Ed O'Neil and tried to use April, and then my tester was like, that's not the right number of L's. But here that might work to my advantage as it gives me fewer constraints. It's a little tricky though, because then we have, like, we could try to have something like enter in the all letters, but then we don't, this needs to be a vowel to go with the TR in whites, but it really needs to be a consonant, and we've already used illness anyway. And if we tried to stretch this to enteric, then we're having the same problem where um, we have three consonants in the um, whites, TRC. Okay, so sorry to all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans out there, but April O'Neil will not be making an appearance in this puzzle. Could maybe clue April with via O'Neil. Mm. What if I'm doing something like something starting with out? But I've had a lot of middling 5 and 6 and 7 letter, all letter answers. I want to get something longer here if I can. Oh, it has to start with E anyway. Uh, I've also had a lot of N's, so maybe we'll put a P here for like ep something. Might have talked about, no, epsilon isn't going to work. That's going to give me an SLN. Something like omelet. But then we're forcing ourselves into ember. I'd like to get at least 7 letters out of. Oh, we've already had earned, so I don't want another thing starting with EA. So there is a lot of room to have something completely different. EX. X something. Oops, not EX. Anything that's good with ox besides oxygen and oxide, oxbow, oxeye. Lots of ox words, actually. Oxtail. Oxhide. Eddie. It would have to be somebody named Eddie, or else it's just Eddie. But again, I want something longer than 4 letters in the white clues. Mm. Just like eliding. There's something called an ogham, which is a writing system used in Old Irish, but GED, I mean, you can have Jedi Lee of Rush, but might still be something in egg. You have ogre, you have ogle, ogle. I've always pronounced it ogle, and I think I might be doing it wrong. No, both are. Hmm? Oh, okay. Primarily ogle, sometimes ogle. Uh, Ogallala, which is just looks very silly, but is an important aquifer in the plains area, I believe. Oganesson, that's probably going to be difficult to use. Seems a little bit long. Um, if I did that, it would have to be egg. Yeah, already I don't like that. Um, hmm. Hmm. I would consider using NCAA in a puzzle. Oh, Noah, gnome. Niantic. Go, but that doesn't give me what I need. Well, let's see. How How many words am I looking at this point? I have almost 120 letters put in the grid. By the way, I usually do these on a 12 by 12 grid, and I have laid this out so that there are 144 blanks. Sometimes I will work with a grid that is longer than that if I am starting in the middle, so I can stretch on either direction, and if I need to decide where it ends or begins, I have room to decide that. Um, oh wait, no. Wait, I've forgotten what the word would look like if I had desperation. No. Maybe we just have nasty and something starting with SY. Like, actually, let's go back to ornament, maybe? We're getting another N blank T, so much of that, so hopefully I can come up with a... So how many letters do we have left now if we do this? Desperation. Ornament in blue. I was too focused on having more than 6 letters in the white entries. But, blue. So, this is probably going to be like rise something. This is probably not good letters, but it wouldn't... Yeah, those are horrible letters. I doubt we're going to be able to get something like risotto in here. Anything else start with risible? Oops. Rising. No. So how many letters do we have left? We have 14 letters here, so that's going to be 7 in each set. That's a little rough. We might need to use we haven't used nettles yet. There's also the possibility of having something like that. Oh my goodness. That was a very nice thing that just... Good thing I typed that out. I would not have been likely to spot netball without those letters in place. So then we have rise, and then we have something starting with BL. And now we have, let's see, we have 10 letters left here. So we probably need 2 words in the all letters. No. Once again, I've gotten tripped up over doubled N's. Right. It's not armies. It starts with an... It has to start with an N. So maybe I will try... Just nasties. Or, no, just nasty. It's also easy for me to get tripped up when it crosses the line break. What are some things that start with SY? Symbol, sylph, synchronize, symphony. Sync. Hmm. Like, how would you use nasties plural? No, I don't want video nasties. Video Recordings Act. Oh, some banned things. So kind of like the Naomi. No. Oh wait, I don't want to have syncs up anyway since I have up and atom, so it would have to just be sync or synced. No way this works. So we have ornate, so it'd be AT. Mm, see if we got anything longer than sync. Synod and enfold is plausible. Syria and Eroica. Synapse and encamp. What would that give me for the other letters? C, M, no. No thanks. Yeah, I need to look at the other letters. So, Syria and Eroica is going to be OC. Synod and enfold is going to be FL. That's decent. Synergy and endear isn't bad, but that GY is going to be difficult. I suppose it could be something like geyser, but DAS isn't so good. Syncope would actually work. It just gives us ATR for the other thing. Synonym, I think that other Y is going to become just as much of a problem. But I should maybe try some of these and see what they look like. So, uh, uh, mm. See, another something with a word I'd rather not put in my puzzle. Uh, let's just say if I put in symmetry after enjoin, but maybe enfolding and then flight. Oh, but then we have N. This wants to be a vowel. This wants to be a vowel and a consonant at the same time. It's not. But unfolded. DAS just isn't that great. And if I take that out, then I need a no. Could put in IGRI, which is kind of an NPL inside joke. So we would have OC. I think enfold is the way to go. FLE. So we have 11 letters left here. Right? Yeah, 11. So so we know we're going to have F L E A C E G I K D B D F H J, and then somewhere, somehow, that's divided into two words. I don't think I'm going to get, I suppose it doesn't hurt to try for an 11 letter thing there, but like this might be too much to ask since one of these words is 9 letters, the one starting with FLE. Oh, so after 11, I should be putting on my shades when it gets late because I have sleep problems. Flemishes? How is Flemish something that can be pluralized? Does it have a meaning I don't know? Yeah, no, it's not a noun that can be pluralized. Good effort. If this doesn't work, then I'm going to have to break the FLE into two words. Okay, when I do that, there's tons. How many words do I have in this? Just to see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in all words, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So we have roughly 21 or 22 words. Probably 22. Um, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like we're having about 11 words in the white letters. And 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So probably 12 or 13. What do I have in something like this? Need to shrink this down a little bit to fit. So is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 8, 9, 10, 11, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so this is a little bit, has a few more words than some of those, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. Wonder if there's any other good things with the SY search. Sysop and stop, that's giving me TP. No. Maybe syncope and an actor? Can I get this done before end of stream? So this means that this one only has to be 4 letters. And then this one still has to be 9 letters. Probably is going to be 2 words then. No. I can't do syncopation right after desperation. Maybe if I'm splitting up the bottom row into 2 words, I can get the top in 1. Let's try that. So go back to where we were. Oh, wait. Okay, so this time, get rid of that. All right. I know hoping to end on an 11-letter thing is a big ask. Okay, so that's not going to cooperate. But what if we had syncope? This one's a little weirder. This is 12 letters. Ah. Oops. Wait, I don't even know what I'm talking about here. uh, could have, oops. Oh, but then it's, okay, fine. And folded it is. And then FLE. Oh, I see. Kinda need. Because. Because you have the D at the end of after synod, the next letter has to be a vowel or the letter R. Oh wait, that's completely different from this one, right? So maybe it's flea. All right, we now have 9 letters remaining. A-C-E-G-I is one word. And then D-R-B-D-F-H is the other. Okay, I think I'm going to have a better AR word if I have it take one or two more letters. Harbor, gauges, brags, and drogue. Wait, what's a drogue? Is that an object trailed behind a boat to reduce its speed? I was thinking it was a kind of boat, but I was close. Arbor, waste, sprats, drowse. No, I don't want anything with drain since I started with drain pipe. No. So if I like drowse, I could get something like let me see if I have another option if I split it up as 6 and 5. I'm surprised at how few things we get for this one. Try one more. Rain, eeks, rinks, and drage. Drage is like a kind of candy, I think. I am very fond of food-related entries. Arsenio, dolt, snoot, and dreidel. I think the more common spelling of dreidel in English has an E between the D and L. Less commonly dreidel. Once upon a time, the winning spelling bee word in the National Spelling Bee was kreplach, I think, which is no, not kreplach, kneidel, or knadel, I don't know the exact pronunciation, which is uh, basically a matzo ball, I think. And I saw this big, long, like, write up about it where it's like, okay, you know, the suggested romanization of the Yiddish word kreplach is this, or not kreplach, knedel, is this, which does not match what was in the spelling bee. It is true that this is the most commonly accepted English spelling of this, but there are so many spelling variants for pretty much any word that entered English via Yiddish. And if I were asked to spell this, I'd be like, let me push back on that. But at the same time, I wouldn't expect people to know the variant spellings. Uh, so I said dragée was a kind of candy. Am I right about that? A bite-sized confectionery with a hard outer shell. Type of candy. Yeah, I love how many types of candy were basically uh, ways to deliver medicine to make it more palatable. Just as like Pepsi was meant to aid digestion. Can't remember if Coca-Cola had a similar uh, sort of origin of what it was supposed to be good for. Huh. Jordan almonds are not derived from Jordan. They're instead a version of garden, jardin. God. So I might use dragée. Uh, Let me just see. Although I'm now primarily using DuckDuckGo for searches where I actually care about things, it doesn't show me the number of hits something has, so I am relying on Google for those, but trying to reduce my use on that. Just the stuff Google gives you is less and less useful, and now they're trying to force AI summaries and whatnot, and I just don't want that. Um, so let's see. It was either dragée and arraign and eeks. I feel like I've already used arraign in uh, other puzzles of this type. Uh, don't feel like people actually say drowse. That they're more likely, but it is certainly like you say you're drowsy, but to drowse is just it's yeah, it's inferable, sure. Let's go with that. Let's do the version that has argon, just because that gives me a nice little gn at the beginning of a word. So that's flea, gnats, so let's see, we have drain pipe, Elden Ring, shtick, See, I'm already using one Yiddish word in here, and I was a little bit uncertain about the spelling of that one. So definitely, I also find that I am constantly overestimating the degree to which people are familiar with terms coming from Yiddish, probably due to me living on the East Coast with a fair number of, that have sizable Jewish communities and whatnot. Um, so, all right. Drain pipe, Elden Ring, shtick, Heian period, peerless at last, aerial blinder, session, near, tread, no trump, earned, nadir medley, sapper, rialto, iron nasty, and folded argon wastes. I would have liked to have a couple more longer entries in there in the latter half of that, but it is what it is. Daniel, Ernst, Chin, Eider, Estate, Illness, Inerrant, Up and Atom, Desperation, Synod, Drowse. Some really good ones. And yeah, like Ernst and Eider are both crosswordese, but Up and Atom and Desperation are good. Ripped, Nigh, IKEA, Propel, Salsa, Rabid, Resonate, Dormer, Entirely, April, Ornate, Flea, Gnats. It's fine. All right, yeah, it's fine. Um, I find that even that I sometimes have kind of uneven fill in these. If I look at, say, this is one of my earlier ones. Wait, how long is this one? Oh, this one's 169. So that'll be difficult to compare to. But I've got like spa summer, backseat, Sophie, carrot cake, isn't ghee, attic, green. All right, I'll stop comparing myself to myself. What was the one that I actually had? Drain pipe. So I still have the one that I thought I was going to start with because I had left it unfinished from before, but I'll just hold on to that and use this one probably as my first puzzle for next month. Uh, and I think that is going to be it for tonight. I will be back next week with another new puzzle. Uh, love to. I don't really know how you can get in touch with me, but um, I'm certainly eager to try different kinds as I go along. Uh, and that's it for me tonight. So, uh, good night, all, as I find. All right, good night.